Some objects aren't meant to be understood. They're meant to be forgotten. But these ones survived, and they are still a problem no one has been able to solve. Colombia, 300 AD. Deep in the mountain valleys of the Cauca River, someone lit a fire, not to stay warm, not to cook, to melt metal at temperatures that required knowledge no one in this region was supposed to have. What came out of that fire, they called the Poporo, 777 grams, cast in a single piece, no seams, no joints, no visible point of entry for the molten metal, small enough to hold in two hands, precise enough to silence a room full of modern metallurgists. It should not exist, not because it's beautiful, though it is, but because the process required to create it wasn't supposed to be possible. Not here, not then, not by a civilization that left behind no written language, no formal chemistry, no tools we have ever been able to identify. And yet, there it is. The Quimbaya didn't use pure gold. They used tembaga to 70% gold, 30% copper, precisely balanced to achieve a hardness, a color, and a surface quality that gold alone cannot produce. This wasn't guesswork. Someone understood exactly how these two metals behave under sustained heat, how copper hardens the structure without dulling the surface, how the final object responds to chemical treatment after casting, how to strip the copper from the outermost layer, restoring the gold's brilliance on the surface, while keeping the structural strength of the alloy beneath. This process has a name: depletion gilding. It requires acid treatment, controlled oxidation, temperatures exceeding 900 degrees Celsius, sustained, monitored, and adjusted without a single instrument we have ever recovered from their civilization. The Poporo was cast using the lost wax technique, a wax model sculpted by hand, every curve, every detail shaped in wax first, then encased in clay, heated until the wax melted and vanished completely. And into that perfect hollow, one single pour of molten tembaga. One chance, no corrections, no second attempt. Modern XRF analysis, X-ray fluorescence, confirms what the naked eye already suspects. The alloy composition across the Poporo is homogeneous from surface to core, not random, not experimental, controlled. This wasn't art. This wasn't ritual. This was a repeatable industrial process, executed with a precision that a civilization we still call primitive had no business possessing. And then it stopped. No warning, no decline, no successor civilization that inherited the technique. It didn't evolve. It didn't spread. It didn't leave behind workshops, tools, or apprentices who carried it forward. It simply ended, as if someone had decided this knowledge goes no further. The Poporo now sits behind glass in the Gold Museum in Bogota, studied, scanned, measured by instruments the Quimbaya never had. And still, after more than a century of examination, no laboratory, no university, no metallurgist on Earth has produced a complete explanation for how they did it. So the question isn't what it was used for. The question is this: 900 degrees, one chance. No instruments we have ever found, no documentation we have ever read. And they got it right, every single time, across hundreds of objects, over hundreds of years. What exactly are we calling primitive? The Poporo answered one question: how precisely they could work metal. But inside those same tombs, something else was waiting. Something metallurgy cannot explain. Picture the burial chamber, a narrow space cut into the earth, sealed for over 1,000 years. No light, no sound, no air moving, and in the darkness, figures, not scattered, not broken by time, arranged deliberately, each one seated, each one still, each one smiling, 10 to 50 centimeters tall. Some cast in gold using the same lost wax technique as the Poporo. Others shaped from clay, fired at controlled temperatures, their surfaces detailed with clothing, body paint, jewelry replicated with an accuracy that modern archaeological analysis still finds unsettling. These weren't approximations. These were portraits. High foreheads, defined cheekbones, closed eyes, lips curved into an expression so specific, so deliberate, so consistent across hundreds of figures recovered from dozens of sites, that you stop asking what they represent and start asking who they were. The Quimbaya believed the body would be resurrected. That death was not an ending, but a crossing. And every crossing required preparation. The figures weren't placed to honor the dead. They were placed to move with them, positioned around the body, facing inward, holding a circle of silent witness through whatever transition came next. This wasn't ritual in the way we use that word, vague, symbolic, decorative. This was a system, precise, consistent, civilization-wide. Every figure placed with purpose, every position calculated, every tomb a blueprint for a journey no living person had ever returned from to describe. This wasn't superstition. This was architecture for the afterlife. And then, the detail that stops every researcher who encounters it. Tomb after tomb, valley after valley, separated by vast distances across the Coca River region, the same expression, the same posture, the same quiet smile, not similar, not approximately the same, identical. A standardized face, reproduced across an entire civilization, placed into the earth beside every person considered worthy of accompaniment. No written instructions, no surviving manuals, no central authority we have ever identified, and yet identical. The figures now stand in museum cases across 3 continents: Bogota, New York, Madrid, measured, catalogued, photographed from every angle. And still, after decades of study, no one has produced a complete explanation for what the Quimbaya believed those figures were actually doing inside those sealed chambers. What role they played in a cosmology so complete, so internally consistent, that it required the same face placed in the same position across an entire civilization for hundreds of years. So the question isn't what they look like. The question is this: the same smile across every tomb, every valley, every generation, placed into darkness by people who believed something was waiting on the other side. What exactly? Did they know that we don't? The figures guarded the dead, but the dead didn't go empty-handed. Inside those same burial chambers, alongside the Poporo, alongside the silent guardians, archaeologists found something else entirely. Objects worn on the body, necklaces, earrings, nose ornaments, bracelets, each one cast in tembaga with the same precision as everything else. Each one placed not beside the body, but on it, exactly where it had been worn in life. This wasn't decoration. In Quimbaya society, what you wore told the world, and whatever came after it, exactly who you were. Your status, your role, your place in a hierarchy so carefully maintained that it followed you into the earth. The jewelry wasn't buried with the dead. It was buried on them. But it's the craftsmanship that stops the conversation cold. Necklace beads so small, they require magnification to fully examine. Cast individually, each one identical in weight, in shape, in surface finish. Modern analysis has recovered nearly 100 micro beads from a single burial site, some showing fresh cutting traces from a lost wax rod less than 2 millimeters in diameter. 2 millimeters, without precision instruments, without magnification, without any tool we have ever identified. Perfect, every single one. Then there are the masks. Funeral masks placed over the faces of the dead, not to hide them, but to transform them. Gold hammered to a thinness that catches light like fabric. An idealized face, a transitional face, The face of someone no longer fully human, and not yet whatever came next. The Quimbaya understood that death changed you, and they built that change into the metal itself. Taken together, the jewelry, the masks, the helmets, they tell a story that Quimbaya never wrote down, that every object on a human body carried meaning. That meaning didn't end at death, that you went into whatever came next completely intact. Nothing removed, nothing left behind. These objects now sit in collections across the world. Some museums, some in private hands, bought from grave looters who had no idea what they were carrying out of those mountains. So the question isn't what these objects are. The question is this: every necklace placed, every mask fitted, every helmet set in position. A civilization that spent more time preparing its dead than we spend preparing our living. What exactly did they believe was waiting? And those weren't even the most unsettling objects in the collection. Among the same burial sites, the same tombs, the same valleys, the same civilization, archaeologists recovered small golden figures that didn't resemble any known animal. Not birds, not insects, not anything with a name in the natural world. In the 1990s, aviation engineers built scaled models based on their exact dimensions. They flew, not approximately, perfectly. Delta wings, vertical stabilizers, weight distribution identical to modern aircraft design. Wind tunnel tests confirmed lift-to-drag ratios comparable to contemporary gliders. We have covered this before. The details are documented. The models flew. What we haven't answered, what no one has answered, is how the same civilization that cast the Poporo arranged the guardians and placed every mask and helmet with surgical precision, also produced miniature objects with functional aerodynamic properties. One civilization, one valley, one collection, and not a single complete explanation for any of it. The Quimbaya left no written language, no surviving record, no explanation for where any of this knowledge came from. What they left was the objects themselves, behind glass, in museums across 3 continents, studied for over a century by civilizations that consider themselves far more advanced than the one that made them. And still, no complete answer. Not for the Poporo, not for the guardians, not for the masks, not for the figures that flew, not for any of it. Some objects aren't meant to be understood. They're meant to be remembered. The Quimbaya made sure of that.